Yeah, new guys coming to you live. You could bet this like Jerome. New guys are men of steel. Best coverage in the league. Prime Reavers on the field. Don't know better ask. G and Nick, the hype is real. Gurus with the knowledge, you can check the mass appeal. They gon' turn your fantasies into dollar bills, making dynasties from drafts like the Spurs when they build. Want the bragging rights and titles at your work. Let the new guys serve the wisdom to you first. I ain't advertising, just kicking facts. They turn average Joes to Drakes, cause they winning back to backs. So sit back, relax, all ears when they speak, and rain on competition with anything they leak. Make leagues joy gray like Ramsey did Reek. Passing off the mic, I'm out here, peace.
Hey viewers, welcome to the playoffs. We missed you. Hope all is well, and more important, hope you made it. Nick and I took an extended break due to work, school, life pressures. So we are back, better late than never. And we're here to help you, hopefully, with your playoffs, unless you're versing us. Then hopefully you don't watch or listen. So, Nick, how is it down there?
Feeling pretty good. Excited for the playoffs. Got the first round bye though, so I don't have to worry about that.
We have naked Nick over here rubbing it in.
Yeah, I guess being good actually matters. So yeah, just excited to help you guys out in your fantasy leagues and talk some football.
Yeah, we're going to dive into all that. I know I myself am in 4 leagues. I made playoffs in all 4, and now all these injuries, which we'll get into, have been crushing. Pretty much everyone except AJ Green, who's gotten hurt, has been on one or more of my rosters in the last 2 weeks. Before we get into that, though, it is nice that for Nick to have his bye, and I have the bye in one of these leagues, which is nice as well. Just, housekeeping purposes. In the pick'em, Nick and I have a little bit of a spread. I'm up 13-9 right now. He caught up last week, but I believe it was 2 weeks ago, there was a 3-0 sweep, which set him back a little. So 13-9 with a handful of weeks to go, so not bad. And before we get into this week's games, I was asked a couple of questions, Nick. And I answered these people already, but I want to throw it at you, get your answer, and then I'll state where I leaned. One was a specific question. I was asked Chris Carson against Minnesota this week at home or Jeff Wilson against Denver at home. If you had to choose one of the running backs, which one and why?
Who's Seattle play?
Seattle is playing against Minnesota and San Fran's against Denver.
That's a pretty tough one. I'm probably still going to go with Carson, honestly. Just because, in my opinion, might have in one league, even though Seattle tends to go with the triple threat backfield, he usually does produce most games, so I'm still going to ride with him. But not confidently. Like, I don't really have much to say on it just because it's not, I don't even know. Yeah, I haven't really seen or heard too much about Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really make too many promises there.
It's a bit of a gamble. I lean the other way, actually, because we already know Breed is out. Wilson last week had 8 catches and 15 rushes. So 61 on the ground, 73 through the air. I feel like he's going to get close to that volume of work. And also, I just think the matchup's a little bit better. Minnesota's defense isn't quite as dominant as it was last year. But if you remember earlier on in the year, they were without their best edge rusher, Everson Griffin, and he's been back for a couple weeks. And Minnesota's just been better at stopping the run since he's come back. So I think Carson, who's probably in more of a committee and also versing a tougher D-line, I think would be a worse play, just based on what I expect Jeff Wilson's volume of work to be. But I don't think either of them are terrible. Odds are in 2 flex leagues and things like that, or 12 or 14 team leagues, odds are you're playing either or both of them, depending on what you have. And I just want to get your opinion on this, because there's a handful of top-end quarterbacks going up against top-end defenses this week. So, for example, if you have Jared Goff on your roster, odds are he's helped get you into the playoffs. He's played great all year, but he's against Chicago on the road. Or Andrew Luck, for example, is against Houston on the road. There are some high-end quarterbacks going against elite defenses this week. What's your opinion on those types of matchups entering the playoffs?
Start your studs. That's my philosophy.
Use who's gotten you here?
Use who's gotten you here. If you have a top quarterback like a Goff or Luck, there's not really, how do I put this, like a defense that really scares me too much. I mean, Luck had a bad game against Jacksonville, but I think he's had like 25 points every other game this season. When Tennessee was number one, he put up 38 on them. And the last time he played Houston, he had 470 yards and 4 touchdowns. Goff's had a couple of those games too. He's had a couple down games, but he's on the best offense in football. Goff, you might as well just play him too. So I would just start your studs.
Fair enough. I tend to agree with that. It does depend on what you have. Some teams that knew they were entering the playoffs, I feel like, may have used bench spots to pick up good defenses along the way. I know in one league, the Bills weren't owned, and they're at home against the Jets this week, and I believe Sam Darnold's back. Yeah. So if you were able to pick up something like that, a decent defense with a prime matchup, maybe lean a different direction, but I wouldn't play a mediocre defense or an average matchup over them. Certain defenses tend to be relatively matchup proof like Chicago. The Ravens are really good, but against Kansas City, that one kind of scares me. But other than that, I wouldn't really shy away from any of the other matchups. One last thing before we get into the rest of the games coming up. We should probably touch on last night's game. And I know we didn't record any of this, but I was dead wrong on Leonard Fournette. I played him against my brother, and it did not go very well. Not entirely his fault. Game flow went against the run because Tennessee ran all over Jacksonville. The Titans won 30-9, and Jacksonville had to rely on, who's their quarterback? Cody Kessler?
Cody Kessler. Yeah.
Throwing the ball 42 times. So it was just one of those games that did not really go as expected. Did you have any takeaways from it, Nick?
I started Fournette in a different league against your friend Holtzman. I think I'm playing this week.
In the Dynasty League?
Yeah, and he didn't do anything, and that's PPR too. He had like 5 points or something, so I was upset about that. I didn't think he was going to have a great game, but like I said earlier, I'm not going to bench Leonard Fournette in the playoffs just because he's Leonard Fournette. So that didn't work out. Derrick Henry, though, having the highest fantasy game in a long, long time. 4 touchdowns, 240 yards. I think he had more points, fantasy points in this game than maybe like his entire season combined, honestly. So where was this? I mean, he wasn't going against a bad defense, too. He was going against Jacksonville. And why has he not been able to produce like this year? Why haven't they been using him? So, a lot of questions there.
Yeah, game flow went his way. He looked dominant compared to previous weeks this year. Another decent performance that sort of got overshadowed because of Derrick Henry just running away with the game, pardon the pun, was D.D. Westbrook actually had a decent game. 7 catches, 88 yards, a touchdown. He played pretty well, and I know he's been sort of boom or bust, I guess, would be the best way to describe him. I did not start him, and based on what I'm seeing in most leagues, most people did not start him. He was only started in 6.2% of leagues. So most people are probably waking up, looking at what DD did and saying, I wish I'd played him.
Yeah.
You have to play what you expect. No one expected him to go off like that. Jacksonville's not a very good passing offense. Hindsight, it sucks, but you're not going to bench, Devontae Adams or somebody like that for D.D. Westbrook because he happened to have a good week next week. Maybe based on your other matchups, a flex play. I don't think Washington scares you next week, but Jacksonville sort of spreads the ball around in a poor man's Saints type offense. Everyone gets a piece.
A poor man's. You gotta be kidding me, man. That's like
that's just thing anyone's ever said again.
That's like
about
the most
them, right?
poorest man on earth. Like,
we like to have some fun here. So, anyway, did you want to touch on anything else, or you ready to get into the up and coming schedule?
Yeah, let's get the games that actually matter. So yeah, we can start off with. I don't know.
Let me take this off.
All right.
I'm not getting naked like you, but dressed in layers. So.
Yeah,
all right,
this
so
just shows my dedication to the show.
What?
This just shows my dedication to the show right here.
Oh yeah,
I'm all in.
He's also got finals next week, so he's really going above and beyond being here right now.
Yeah.
So we'll just go down the list, and I know you said the games that matter. First one on the docket is Jets at Buffalo.
All right. Well, I guess we're not going with what I just said. So yeah, it's exciting to see Darnold back in it. He hasn't played in I think 3 or 4 weeks or something. I don't know when his last game actually was. But I mean, the last time the Jets played the Bills, they lost by 40 points, and the Jets were home for that one and starting McCown. So maybe Darnold will give them, I don't know, motivation or something to play better. But chances are you're not starting any offensive players on either of these teams. Maybe you'll start the Bills defense or maybe even the Jets defense, but I don't see any fantasy players coming out of this game really.
I tend to agree. Bills defense, I think, are a decent streaming option. They completely decimated the Jets on the road a few weeks back, and now they're home. Low-key, Buffalo's been a top 10 defense, actually, or at least for fantasy purposes. And I think playing a rookie quarterback just sort of helps them there. So that's one of the defenses I'd consider if you do have one of those good defenses against an elite offense like the Ravens. If you also happen to have the Bills, that's one I'd consider. Maybe based on your options, Isaiah Crowell for the Jets, but I wouldn't feel great about it.
Mm-hmm.
He's just been the only one on that offense to somewhat regularly produce.
Yeah.
And for dynasty purposes, again, not this week, but to stash, potentially, Zay Jones has actually looked decent in recent weeks. He's played pretty well.
You love Zay Jones, man.
I drafted him last year in a league, and it did not work out pretty quickly. But he has played better, and it's just worth mentioning. Also worth mentioning is the Bills cut Kelvin Benjamin, who has also signed with Kansas City. So, any takeaways for that, or you think that's a loss for this year?
I don't think it really matters. Buffalo obviously wasn't using too much if they went and cut in. And if you're a wide receiver and you get cut from Buffalo, that really says something about who you are. The Chiefs, I mean, he's still behind Sammy Watkins, and even Sammy Watkins isn't doing too much anyway.
Sammy Watkins is actually out the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah? I didn't even hear about that, actually.
Yeah. So they still have Chris Conley there, too, though. So it's I think it's more depth purposes.
Yeah, that was my point. I mean, Sammy Watkins wasn't really doing too much when he was healthy anyway, so, I mean, I don't think Kelvin Benjamin will really have a future role. They got too many weapons, but...
I agree.
Yeah.
Just worth noting because big name, he did get traded to them in sort of a steal. Philly sort of, completely took advantage of Buffalo in that trade a few years back.
Kelvin Benjamin went to Philly? I think it was Carolina, right?
Well, wait, I'm thinking the Jordan Matthews trade.
Yeah,
I
think Carolina sent him for like a third rounder or something to Buffalo.
Yes. I was thinking, for some reason, my mind was on Jordan Matthews.
Yeah.
Who's also an irrelevant receiver that got traded.
Who's your pick for the game?
I will go with Buffalo.
Really? All right, I'll go with the Jets. I think Darnold will spark some motivation, and the Jets' strive for mediocrity will continue.
All right, so you're trying to gain some ground here.
Yeah, that has a little bit to do with it.
I just figured I'll go with the mobile quarterback who has the better defense and is home.
It could go either way. Yeah, I'm not really sold on the Jets, but
So this game has a lot more relevance. Carolina at Cleveland. And I guess I'll get started. Carolina lost Greg Olsen for the year, so I believe their starting tight end will be Ian Thomas. I mean, if you had Greg Olsen, lost him, and have a barren, free agent pool, it's a risky play, but you have to do what you have to do. It's a dart throw, but so are a lot of the back end tight ends this year.
Yeah.
So just worth noting, no Greg Olsen. But if you have McCaffrey, you're playing him. If you have Cam, you're playing him. He's got such a high floor with his rushing. I don't really feel great about any of their receivers, but Moore has been pretty consistent. And Curtis Samuel has played well the last couple weeks. He also does a few returns, so if you're in a league where that counts, consider it. I know in our league, our family league, I lost Emmanuel Sanders, and there was nothing out there, so I threw Curtis Samuel on the bench. And now with Kerryon Johnson getting rolled out, I might actually have to play him, unfortunately. So you don't feel great about it, but he's played better, worth noting. On the Cleveland side, it's Nick Chubb's backfield. Duke Johnson had 2 good weeks, but he's more game flow dependent and also isn't even getting a third of the snaps recently. So I actually cut him in the league I had him, which I believe was actually the same league.
Yeah.
But Jarvis Landry had a big game last week. I would fire up almost any Cleveland Brown. To be honest, Carolina's defense has gotten completely exposed the last month.
Yeah, it's gotten torched. It's not great, especially in the secondary.
And I think, did they fire their defensive coach?
I don't think so.
No.
No, I don't think so.
There's been a bunch of firings the last couple weeks, and we've been absent for about a month, so
yeah.
I could be mistaken on that. But I will actually pick Cleveland, and I will defer to you to get your opinion on this game, and also any notable players.
Yeah. Carolina's really disappointed the last few weeks. I know they had the number 1 seed in the NFC wildcard 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, and then I think they've lost 3 or 4 straight, including last week at the Bucs. So you don't feel great. McCaffrey's a stud, like you said. Obviously, you're playing him. I think he's the RB4 in the league right now, which I was shocked. I mean, I drafted him in our league, but I didn't think he'd be doing this. He's actually not looking just like a receiving back, but also like a power back at times too, like in between the tackles. So I'm pretty impressed with him. DJ Moore, if you have to play him in the flex, it's not the worst thing. He seems to be averaging around 10 points a game, so that could, I don't know, it's not the worst thing. He gets a lot of targets, so he'll probably have a little higher of a floor too. Game-wise, I am going to go with Carolina. I feel they just still think they're in the wild card. I think they're game out, have to start winning games sometimes. And I think that'll come this week.
All right, so far we're 2 for 2 with on this.
Yeah.
Apparently, the break
It's
really
a hard week. I look betting wise too. It's not like a clear cut week. There are a lot of games that are just preference, like who you want to win or think to win.
Okay. Well, hopefully you will not close the gap, but we will see. This could blow the door wide open, or it could get us back to 500.
Yeah.
So next is Atlanta at Green Bay, and I'll let you start off.
So the Packers just fired Mike McCarthy after the game. I mean, I guess some people thought it was shocking, but not really. He's been on the hot seat for a couple years now, honestly. You look at all these coaches in the league who are doing things. Take Matt Nagy, for example, with the Bears. Mitch Trubisky's an okay quarterback. He's not great by any means, but he's looking like a Pro Bowler, and that's all because of new offensive system, young minds, and when you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers and the offense isn't producing, obviously that's going to fall into the coach. So I think it was definitely well past time for him to leave. And I'm excited to see if they kind of just give the keys to Aaron for the next couple of weeks and kind of just say, like, look, like, we're going to get you a coach, like, next year. Like, just do whatever you can this year.
Mhm.
So I think the Packers are going to kill him. I think the Packers are definitely going to win this game. I just think Aaron Rodgers is going to want to send a message and show that it wasn't his fault. And I just think it's going to be more of a revenge tour. But, I mean, a lot of fantasy studs in this game. Both defenses aren't great in the secondary. Julio Jones should have a big game. Devontae Adams should have a huge game. Aaron Jones should have a big game, too. So a lot of star power here, but I'm going to roll with the Packers to win it.
Agreed. I think it's going to be a high-scoring shootout. Because of all the firepower, that means Matt Ryan as well will have a big game. I believe Deion Jones is playing for Atlanta, so their defense gets a little better, but their defense has been bottom barrel all year. I don't think that's going to suddenly stop Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm expecting a high-scoring game, fire up Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers, even though he's been mediocre most of the year. I think the coaching change will sort of spark something there. So I agree with the game, and I just want to touch on it. I was wrong. It was not the defensive coordinator who got fired from Carolina, but it was actually the defensive line coach who got fired.
They cut the D line.
So I knew somebody did, but I wasn't quite positive who. So just to clarify on that. But yeah, we agree on that game, and we will move on to Baltimore at Kansas City. This is the first immovable object. What's that analogy? Unstoppable force meets movable object.
Yeah.
So I'll let you get started here again.
I think the Chiefs are going to roll the Ravens. I don't even think this is going to be close. Consider me biased because I need the Ravens to lose this week for the Colts to get the wild card. But this Ravens defense is good, but it's not as good as the Bears, I don't think. I think there are much better defenses in this league. And even if it was the Bears, I don't think the Bears are stopping the Chiefs anyway. The only way to do it is to outscore them, really. Do you know if Eric Berry's playing this week? I'm pretty sure he practiced for the first time last week.
He was practicing last week. They haven't made a decision on that yet, so I don't know if he's going to play or not. But I don't know what he has left in the tank. It's been a while since he's played.
Yeah.
If he does, it's not going to be a featured role. He'll probably be unlimited snaps. But I'm not sure. I don't think that decision has been made yet.
Yeah, I don't think Lamar Jackson wins 4 straight, especially going against one of the powerhouses in the league. I just think they know that they have a game lead on us, the Ravens. I think they know that they don't necessarily have to win out, but they have to win 3 of the next 4. If they're going to drop 1, I think this would definitely be the one that they know that they can drop. They're kind of playing with house money this week, and I just don't see them winning.
I agree. Kansas City's offense is just too unstoppable with the whole Kareem Hunt situation, though.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about that. I didn't realize that.
We will. I still think Kansas City wins this game, and I think they win it pretty handily. I'm a little concerned about Spencer Ware just because Baltimore is very, very good against opposing running backs, both in the running and the passing game. So I do not feel great about Spencer Ware, but everyone else on Kansas City, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, fire up. And actually, Patrick Mahomes, I think, will lean a little more on the throw because Baltimore is so good at stopping the run. On the Baltimore side, it's intriguing because I think they're going to try to do, and let me start with this, I don't think they'll be successful in doing this, but I think what they're going to try to do is run the ball. The last 2 weeks, the bus, Gus Edwards has touched the ball 20 times or more, and Kansas City is actually within the worst 3 against stopping the run. They struggle at stopping the run. So I think what Baltimore's going to try to do with the mobile quarterback, the bruising running back, they're going to try to just...
bruising running back.
I'm a little biased towards Gus Edwards.
It's not Leonard Fournette or Jerome Bettis. The Gus bus.
Yeah. So I think what they're going to try to do is just pound the rock, run the ball 30 times combined between Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards, and then hope the defense can contain Patrick Mahomes. I don't think it'll work. I think by the second half they might have to abandon the run. But I do think in the first half, Gus will get 12 to 15 touches based on their game plan before it gets abandoned. So I'm tempering his expectations because that's less touches than he's been getting. But I do still think he's someone you can start if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm debating between him or, as I mentioned, Samuel for Carolina and a couple of people I picked up because of Emmanuel Sanders getting hurt. I'm very biased towards Gus because I have him in every league.
And he's got a cool nickname.
And he's got a great nickname. I'm all about the bus. Gravy Train.
Gravy Train.
His public transportation. So, I agree. Kansas City wins this game. Baltimore, in the second half, will probably have to throw the ball more. But Lamar Jackson's not very accurate. Joe Flacco's still questionable. So I think Kansas City, their defense might actually have a decent game because low-key, they've played better recently as well, even without Eric Berry. So a potential streaming option there. But let's move on from this game. Next one is Patriots at Miami. I guess I'll get started with this one. Xavier Howard is not playing. That's Miami's top corner who is expected to shadow Josh Gordon. So Miami, whose defense isn't great, but I think is a little better than people realize, the loss of their top corner just, makes Josh Gordon that much more appealing this week. I'd say fire up all of your Patriots. If you have Gronk, you're playing Gronk. If you have Sony Michel, you're playing Sony Michel. I have a bunch of good receiving options and was leaning away from Josh Gordon, but with the news of Howard not playing, now I'm leaning towards him. I think that's really the only thing where the needle has shifted since this week began. But let me get your opinion, Nick, on Rex Burkhead, who came back last week and played pretty okay, and also Kenyon Drake and Frank Gore for Miami. How do you feel about any of those three backs?
I would not start Rex Burkhead. He's the third best running back on his team. If you count Cordell Patterson, maybe tied for third. So I probably wouldn't play him. On the Miami side, I don't think you can start Frank Gore in a playoff game, and if you're forced to, I don't think you have a very good team. Kenyon Drake is inconsistent, but he could always have a big game. So this isn't really a game. I'm going to pick the Patriots just because they're the Patriots, but this isn't a game you should bet on. I know when you look at it, you go, oh, like Patriots, like minus 7. Like obviously, I'm going to take the Patriots. It's the Patriots against the Dolphins, but the Patriots have actually lost the last 4 years, 3 of the last 4 years in Miami. Every single year they give them trouble. It's just a known fact. For some reason, just Belichick, just the one game a year that it seems to slip away from them is the game in Miami for some reason. I don't know why, but it's just a big betting thing. I know.
It's like the Giants versus the Eagles. It's a division thing. Miami. They know how to counter the Patriots, I guess, to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Patriots, but I'm not too confident about it honestly because I know that they could just as easy lose it.
Yeah, and I agree about Burkhead. I agree about Gore, especially because Miami will probably, despite recent history, end up having to abandon the run to keep up with the Patriots. Kenyon Drake is inconsistent, more so based on usage than his talent, but
yeah.
In the playoffs, I sort of like consistency. So that's someone I'm going to shy away from unless you don't have a better option. But I agree with the outcome. I'm going to take the Patriots. Cool. I'll let you get started on this next one, the Saints at Tampa Bay.
Saints at Tampa Bay.
That's a fun one.
A rematch from the Week 1 game where Ryan Fitzpatrick threw for like 500 yards and like 4 touchdowns or something against the Saints and actually handed them the first loss. I think we discussed it after this, saying how, before the season, did you predict the Saints to be good or no? What did you have in that?
I thought the Saints would be good, but I had the Rams winning it all, and I still currently have the Rams winning it all. So,
Yeah, I think I wasn't really big on the Saints before the year. I remember that. I was pretty big on Atlanta for some reason. That didn't really work out. But yeah, after week one, it looked like this Drew Brees dynasty might be over, honestly. I mean, they lost to the Buccaneers, a game that they were favored by 17 points. But since then, they've been awesome. Another high-scoring game this week. Honestly, this is a great fantasy matchup. You're going to be starting people on both sides of the field. You're going to be starting, honestly, who's starting this week? Jameis for the Bucs. You're probably going to be starting Jameis, honestly, maybe. Like, that's not a bad play at all. Mike Evans, Cameron Brate. Now, Deshaun Jackson might not play, right? He might be out this week.
yeah, I don't think he's playing. So if
even Godwin's not.
Grab
like the worst
Adam
play.
Humphries or Godwin.
Yeah, that's not even the worst play because this is going to be a
Very high score.
500 yards of total offense for both teams, just moving down the field.
Both. I don't think it's going to stop either offense. Both defenses have played a little bit better the past few weeks compared to earlier in the year, but it's still going to be very high scoring, and you're firing up everybody. Let me ask you, do you believe in Jameis Winston? Last few weeks he's played a lot, I guess, safer might be the word. He hasn't turned the ball over as much as he and Fitzpatrick were the first 10 weeks of the year. He's been, I believe his touchdown to interception ratio over the last 3 games is, I want to say, 6-1. So he's been doing a lot better at protecting the ball. Are you confident in him continuing that trend?
No, I'm not a big Jameis believer. I mean, even Bortles has his games where he'll go 3 games with an 8 touchdown ratio to like 0 interceptions or something. So I'm not a big believer in Jameis Winston. I think they played this whole quarterback situation wrong this year, kind of going back and forth between every single game whenever one has a bad moment. Kills their confidence. I just think that was dumb. I think they should have been playing Jameis ever since he was healthy. Obviously, you don't really have a future with Fitzpatrick. You might as well get the young guy in there. But I'm not a big believer on him. I don't think he's talented, but just his decision making for the most part is just maybe the worst in the league.
And I agree. I don't think he's going to be a lot better at protecting the football the rest of the way, but I do think it continues one more week just because the Saints.
Yeah, no, I think it'll continue this week too. But
yeah, who are you taking? I'm taking the Saints.
Yeah, the Saints.
Saints too. Okay, and let me ask you because this was a question in one of our group chats, and I just stated my case for Josh Gordon, but we're asked Josh Gordon or Mark Ingram. Let me get your opinion there.
It's a pretty good question. I'm going to go with Josh Gordon just because Xavier Howard's not playing. He's the number 1 wide receiver. Mark Ingram has been getting less snaps, it seems, lately. It feels like Kamara's getting more of the running back snaps. And not just out of the passing game, I just mean out of actually running the ball. It seems they're giving it to Kamara more. So I'm going to go with Josh Gordon.
All right, so we're in agreement there, and we will move on to my New York Giants, who have life all of a sudden, way too little, way too late, in a divisional game on the road against Washington, who is most likely starting Mark Sanchez. So, Nick, I'll let you get started on this one because I'm very biased, but let me hear what you have to say.
I think the Giants are going to win, even though they probably should stop winning games.
I was really hoping you weren't going to say that because that's what I think is going to happen too.
This Redskin, the Giants, just like the Jets, I mean, aside from last year, but they just love striving for mediocrity, even if it won't help them later on. But I just think the Giants aren't, honestly, not that bad of a team. Their roster is a lot better than their record. The Redskins, even though Alex Smith wasn't the greatest quarterback in the world, it seemed he was the one holding them together. They've looked awful the last couple weeks. I don't know who they lost to last week, but they lost to Dallas the week before on Thanksgiving. They lost to the Eagles last week, right? Yeah, that's who it was.
Yes.
The Eagles, yeah. And I mean, yeah, they're down to their 3rd string quarterback. I don't see much coming. Adrian Peterson had a good game though the last time the Redskins played the Giants, I think, right? I believe he did have a good game last time against you guys.
He did.
So
Chris Thompson's back though, just worth mentioning.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't love to have to start Peterson, but I mean, it's not the worst play. I feel pretty confident he's going to get you somewhere around at least 10 points, probably at least a touchdown. So that's it for that side. Saquon Barkley's the GOAT. He could be going against anyone. You'll start him. OBJ, same thing. Yeah, that's basically it, honestly. I think the Giants are going to win.
I agree. Giants will win. Washington is down to their third string quarterback, who is Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
And their O-line has been decimated. Two of their backups on their O-line are now also out for the year. So two of their offensive linemen that will be starting this week are also third stringers. So I just don't have any confidence in that offense. I think Peterson will be able to grind out an okay game, but it's going to be a lot of short, high percentage throws. So I'm expecting Jordan Reed to have a better than average day, but not a great day. For the Giants, I want to mention Rhett Ellison's played well the last few weeks, but Evan Ingram is off the injury report. He'll be back. I'm intrigued to see that split. I don't have any confidence in either of them because I'm just not really sure what the workload's going to be there. And, if you've gotten to this point in the season, if you've made the playoffs, I don't think it's because of Evan Ingram. So I agree, Barkley and Odell, and that's about it for the Giants. But for Washington, I'm throwing Jordan Reed in there. And go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue.
Do what's right. Do what's right. Embrace the tank. Embrace the tank. Stop winning these pointless games. I agree with you, Nick, though. They were the most talented 1-6 team I have ever seen at one point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Odell wanted to win out and make playoffs. That's not happening. Dallas is playing phenomenal football recently. But the Giants are just ruining their draft stock with these games. But I think that continues. We're going to be 5-8 this time next week. So next, ironically, is your Colts, actually. So Colts at Houston, and I will let you choose. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start here?
You can start.
I can start. Okay. The Colts got embarrassed last week. That's what they did. They got embarrassed by a bad Jacksonville team. And still within the playoff hunt, I think they come out firing, and I think they win this one on the road.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm going with the Colts. That defense is underrated. Quentin Nelson is phenomenal. I just want him to yell at everybody. This is going to be a high-scoring game. Luck for, I believe, 6 or 7 straight games through 3 touchdowns up until last week. So I think he gets back on track there. We have a much larger sample size of Andrew Luck being good and carrying the Colts than we do of the poor performance in multiple turnover games like the one he had last week. So I think the Colts get back on track and win this game. I do think Houston has a good game as well. I think this one has a lot of firepower also. Houston will put pressure on Luck with Watt and Clowney and everything. But I just think this is going to be back and forth, maybe witness 3 or 4 lead changes, and mostly gut more than anything. I think the Colts know they need this win to stay in the playoff race, and I think they get it. Houston also, I know they're 9-3, but I believe a couple times throughout the past few months I've said that a couple of their wins were sort of fluky. Not the recent ones, but a few along the way. I think they're more a 7-5 team than a 9-3 team. They are what they are, but I think this one's closer than it looks on paper, and I think the Colts actually win it.
Okay. Well, I do not wish to speak about the game last week because I've spent way too much time of my life that I will never get back thinking about that game last week.
Fair enough.
Andrew Luck had the record, the current active NFL record for straight games with at least one touchdown. It was like 30 something games. That obviously was gone. This was the first time he's ever been shut out since high school. I mean, I just know he's never been shut out in college or the pros. So there's a first for everything, I guess. Obviously, the 3 touchdown streak gone too. Nonetheless, I think the Colts are going to come out, like you said, just on fire. Hungry dogs run faster. The Colts need this win. The Texans don't. I just think we know to keep our playoff hopes alive. Now we have to win out. You know, we went into last week knowing, all right, we could basically lose one game for the rest of the year. It was assumed that it was going to be this week or Dallas. No, we wasted that on the awful Jaguars. So now we got to come out firing. Texans are probably they're definitely the hottest team in football, even though they find these ways to barely win each week, but they still do. It all started the last time we played them when they were 0-3. Honestly, a couple plays away from being 0-4 and maybe firing their coach. Season spiraling out of control, but we let them get one, and they haven't stopped running since. But the last time we played, I think the score was 38-35, I want to say. Luck had 470 yards, 4 touchdowns. Deshaun had 350 and 3 touchdowns. So I definitely bet the over in this game. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I think every big name, both running backs included, are going to have big games too. I'm expecting Marlon Mack to have a bounce-back week because he got shut down. So yeah, that's going to be it. I'm taking the Colts, though. My dogs. We need to win. Yeah.
So the winning started with the Colts and it ends here with the Colts.
That's what I think, yeah. That's what I hope.
So after the first 2 games, us disagreeing, we've been stride for stride in agreement since then.
Yeah.
I think that continues with this next one, though. Bengals at Chargers.
Yeah.
Bengals fired their coach
The Bengals fired their coach?
a few weeks ago.
Oh.
It's been a few weeks since we've recorded.
The defensive coordinator, yeah, they fired.
They also lost A.J. Green. They also lost Andy Dalton. So
Yeah.
Chargers, I'm taking. But I do think Tyler Boyd's going to get 10 targets.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. That's why I got him on my team. So I'm starting him this week.
Tyler Boyd in a trade that shouldn't have happened.
It was a powerful trade. The rich get richer.
The rich got richer there. So
I made a Chris Ballard-esque move as general manager of my team and traded my backup quarterback for Tyler Boyd, who is a wide receiver 1 now, or wide receiver 2. So it was a good day in the Minerva household.
it was a good day for him, and many of us in the league saw it coming, saying it was a bad move, and then it happened. And we're actually on the same side of the bracket. So while I'm off to a rough start with Fournette, there's a chance this time next week the current champion is out. There's also a chance this time next week, because Nick has the bye, that we're versing each other again.
So very exciting stuff coming.
Going to be very interesting to see what happens. So on the Chargers side, is there anyone you're benching? I feel like that's an easier way to put it.
Is Melvin Gordon definitely out this week, or he's still...
He is definitely out this week.
Okay. The backup for Eckler actually looked pretty good, honestly, last week. I forget his name. I always forget it for some reason. Jackson, yeah. So, honestly, if you're in need of a flex with all these injuries that have come about with Sanders and Green and all these guys, like, he could honestly be a pretty good flex play, especially because I'm expecting the Chargers to put up at least 35 points this week, maybe 40. The Bengals actually have the worst defense in the league statistically. I think it's the worst defense in the league since, like, the Saints had that awful one, like, 4 years ago or something. So it's a pretty bad defense. But Phillip, Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams, maybe even Mike Williams as a flex or something. I'm probably playing everyone on that offense for the Chargers.
So let me ask you then, Justin Jackson or Jalen Samuels for the week? That's the backup for Pittsburgh.
That's a tough one. That's a good question. I think I read
Pitt's on the road against Oakland, and then Jackson's at home against the Bengals. So both are very nice matchups.
Yeah, I think I'd probably lean towards Jackson. Just because I think with the Samuel situation, apparently they're going to go more of a committee approach. I don't think they're going to make Samuels a workhorse that Connor's been. So I'm going to go with Jackson. But again, not convincingly. Like, I think they'll both have fine weeks.
Fair enough, and I also agree there. I'd go with Jackson as well, because I read somewhere Austin Eckler's sort of run down from the year, and without Melvin Gordon and him getting tired, I think the Chargers have a bigger picture view. They want to be ready for the playoffs. They want to be healthy for the playoffs. So Eckler's going to play, but I don't think he'll get more than 10 or 12 touches in this one, especially if there's any truth to that, him being exhausted, tired. So I'd lean towards Jackson. I think both of them are sort of in a committee, but I'd lean that way as well.
Yeah, big thing to watch, though. I mean, we assume the Chargers are going to win this week. If they win this week, and then the Chiefs are probably going to win this week, they actually play each other next week for the division, essentially, as the Chargers are one game back. They're low-key one game back in the division, which is crazy considering how good you look at Kansas City and just think how amazing they are. But
hey, Phillip Rivers is playing great football, and it's so under the radar because of all these other high-octane offenses. Like, how many people are sitting there saying, the Chargers, other than my brother?
Yeah, right.
Like, they're being slept on. They're a very good football team. They got Joey Bosa back. I still have the Rams winning it all, but that would be interesting to see next week. But let's continue focusing on this week. We have 6 more games. Denver at San Fran. I will let you start.
Boy, another boring game, really. But Denver's actually has the same record as the Colts. They're also in the thick of things for the wild card. Considering their next 3 games are the Raiders, Cardinals, and they play the 49ers this week. So pretty easy schedule. Those are probably the 3 teams you'd want to face if you were trying to make a playoff push. San Fran's been screwed this whole year. We all know they don't have their quarterback, yada, yada, yada. I think at this point, they kind of know. We know we weren't. It's not like our fault this year. Like, we might as well just get a high draft pick, just maybe a Nick Bosa or someone just another stud to pair for our future. So I don't think they have anything left to fight for. I'm going to go with the Broncos. But I do think Cortland Sutton will probably have a pretty big game. Just because, a few weeks ago he was the 3rd-string receiver there behind Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, and now they're both gone. One due to injury, one due to trade. So I think he's going to be a feature role going forward. And then Phillip Lindsay, obviously, too, you have to play because he's been playing phenomenal.
Yeah, Phillip Lindsay, you're starting. I think Denver chokes.
I hope. I don't want them to win, but
I think I'm going the other way. I think San Fran's going to win. I think they're excited. I know they're playing for nothing, but Nick Mullins threw for 414 yards last week against a Seattle defense that is kind of similar to the Denver defense. Underrated corners, decent, but I think Mullins, who's been running with the ones for about a month now, is starting to get a grasp of that offense. I know he had a huge first game. There was no tape on the guy. It was just sort of fluky, but I think he's getting more integrated there and, more comfortable with the starters, with the playbook. So I think San Fran at home takes this one, especially because Emmanuel Sanders got hurt on Wednesday. So really Wednesday, Thursday is when the Broncos realized we're going to be without our top receiver. Cortland Sutton's going to get a lot more attention there. I still think he has a good game. I think he gets peppered with targets, which, volume leads to good performances usually. But I just think that probably changed the Denver game plan midweek. And I just think, everything considered, San Fran, who's coming off one of their better games for the year, ends up getting the W this week. So let me just mark that down because that is the first game we differ on since the first two.
All right.
And we will move on to an NFC East showdown, Philly at Dallas. And I'll let you get started.
What is Philly 6-6? Dallas is 7-5.
Yes.
Yeah, so
It's actually pretty close to the division race. Oh, shoot, the screen recording just stopped. Oh, well.
No worries. I can throw a picture there. We have the audio, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely interesting considering it seems like Philly's having such a bad year that their record really isn't that awful. They're still 500. They need this win, but I don't see it happening. Dallas is playing too well. Their defense is coming off probably the defensive performance of the year, shutting down the Saints, who seem like could never be stopped. Philly's secondary is a mess. They're playing wide receivers at cornerbacks in practice and stuff, I'm reading. So I'm going to go with Dallas. Not a huge win, but I just think they have more talent right now and are just playing with more fire, I guess.
I'm going to agree and go with Dallas there. It's interesting. Dallas is 7-5. Philly and Washington are both 6-6. So really, anybody can take the division except for the Giants, because the Giants, at best, could be 8-8, and they're 0-4 in divisional games. So I think mathematically they're out.
Yeah.
But the division's still up in the air. It's a 3-horse race, but Dallas, that offense has really opened up since trading for Amari Cooper. Dax played better last week on fantasy paper. I know that's not a thing, but on fantasy paper, he didn't get it done. That wasn't really his fault entirely. He got sacked 7 times and lost the ball once, fumbled twice. That's not normally going to happen with the Dallas O-line being what it is. So I think Dallas, with the better defense, with the healthier defense, and currently with the better offense, takes this game. I don't think they take Philly to the woodshed, but I think they win by more than a score. I think it's pretty one-sided, this game. So we will move on from the showdown. And next is Pitt at Oakland. Now, I think this is one that does go to the woodshed.
Yeah, we don't have to spend too much time on this one.
Play every Steeler you have. Oakland, only Jared Cook. Do you?
Yeah.
Is there anyone else for you?
Nope.
Oh, Jalen Richard in PPR, because they're going to get down. They're going to get down quick, and he's been very, very consistent, actually. Low-key, he's been a top 30 running back all year because they get down every game, and this is just going to be more of that. But that's it. Move on.
Yeah, we can move on. They're going to be playing with fire this year. They're pissed that they lost. They're probably just going to come down and just destroy them, so we can move on.
All right. Detroit, without Kerryon Johnson, without Marvin Jones, and potentially without Matt Stafford, on the road against Arizona.
I'm going to go with Arizona with the points that you just said. Arizona beat Packers last week, crazy enough. No one really saw that one coming.
Nope.
Especially Mike McCarthy, for obvious reasons.
Not to laugh at someone being fired, but yeah, no one saw that coming.
But they're playing better. Arizona, Josh Rosen seems to get more comfortable. I know David Johnson had a bad game, but I'm expecting him to bounce back with a strong one. On the Lions side of the ball, definitely want to watch if Matt Stafford's playing, because that'll affect Kenny Galladay's stock. I mean, if Stafford's playing, I feel pretty confident in playing Galladay, at least as a flex, but if he's not, I don't even know who their backup is, so I probably would shy away, especially because Patrick Peterson's on the other end too. And it's not like a few weeks ago where they had Golden Tate and Marvin Jones too, so it's not like the number one corner just has to go to everyone. They'll probably focus directly on Galladay. So yeah, I'm not really too interested in this game. Neither team is really great. But I'm gonna go with the Cardinals.
I agree with the Cardinals. There's a little wrinkle there that Christian Kirk's out for the year, which is unfortunate. A promising rookie wide receiver, but they have played better of late. I think Patrick Peterson shadows Galladay for most of this game, and Detroit's offense is just so crippled there. So I think at home Arizona gets it done. I actually do disagree on one, not disagree, but I'm tempering expectations for David Johnson. Detroit's actually been top 10 since trading for Snacks Harrison at stopping the run. So because of pass catching work and all of that, volume, David Johnson I think will have a decent game, but I'm not putting him in my top 5 or top 7 or anything too crazy. I do think his performance is pretty contained. Could be wrong there. David Johnson, phenomenal player, but I am a little more concerned than just willing to fire him up there. Because, you're an owner of David Johnson. You have gotten other running backs along the way while he was underperforming earlier in the year. And based on your other options, I think if you have David Johnson, you're playing him, but I'm not expecting a 20-point performance or anything like that. Could be wrong, though. Let me ask you, though, the Detroit running backs, you favor LeGarrette Blount there without Carry-On? Or Zach Zenner or Theo Riddick?
Garrett Blount could always get you that touchdown or those couple touchdowns just because he's such a big goal line back. So yeah, but I don't assume that you're starting either of those if you're in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
All right, we will move on. Second to last game, probably going to be the game of the week. The Rams at Chicago.
Yeah, good game.
Very good game.
Close one. I've seen mixed reviews on who people think are going to win. Mitch Trubisky is expected to be back. And that offense has really been playing well of late. I know they lost last week, but they still put up somewhere around 30 points against your Giants, right?
Yeah. It was an overtime game, but yes.
Yeah. Tariq Cohen's playing really well this year. He's having an underrated year. Jordan Howard's not bad, too.
In leagues where return yards count, he's actually running back 9 in PPR.
Yeah, so he's playing really well. Definitely above expectations, considering he was supposed to be the second best running back on his team before this year. And then their defense, obviously, is really the most consistent defense in the league. You got a team like the Titans who will play really well, their defense, and then just get blown out the next week. That doesn't really happen with the Bears too much. They've been pretty consistent all year. But they haven't really went against someone like the Rams yet. They played the Vikings a few weeks ago, but that's not what this Rams offense is. And I just think they're just too strong. I don't really see the Rams losing another game this year, honestly. So I'm going to go with the Rams.
Okay. I think I'm going with the Rams as well. I believe they just got Aqib Talib back. I don't think he's going to really shadow, though, because Chicago spreads the ball around to everyone. They, one game it's a Gabriel game, the next it's Allen Robinson. Trey Burton only has 5 catches over the last 3 weeks. I think having Trubisky back helps him. I'm just speculating, but I think it's going to be a Trey Burton week. Burton and Cohen, because I think they'll have to keep pace with the Rams. I'm still going with LA there, but I do expect a high-scoring game. Both good defenses, both good offenses. Trubisky back. I think this is going to be the game of the week. If you have Gurley, you're playing Gurley. If you have Jared Goff, I'm a little concerned. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still probably playing Jared Goff.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that. So, but I'm in agreement there. I'm going with the Rams. But play everybody. Play everybody. Or at least, you know what? Don't play Jordan Howard.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't play Jordan Howard.
Oh wait, let me get your opinion though. Josh Reynolds. Yes,
right?
he'll be running in 3 wide sets since Cooper Kupp's hurt.
I probably wouldn't play Josh Reynolds this week just because while we're saying play everyone, start your studs, yada yada yada. It is the best defense in the league, and I don't think you go to the point to say we're going to start the 4th best option or 5th best option on the Rams against this defense. So I don't think I would play Josh Reynolds personally.
That's a very good point about the defense. I'm sort of leaning the other way. He had 6 catches in the Kansas City game. I mean, that game was ridiculous. That's not going to be the norm. But he still saw 5 targets last week, and he's going to draw, the worst corners. He's going to get the best matchup out of that Rams offense, compared to what Cooks will see and everyone else. So it's a flyer, but if you got decimated with injuries or were that bottom barrel team that just barely squeaked in due to tiebreakers, I think Josh Reynolds will be a better play than most people expect. But hopefully you don't have to decide on whether or not to start Josh Reynolds. Hopefully you have a much more sound starting unit than that. Last game of the week, Nick, Minnesota at Seattle. And I guess I'll get started with this one. And so Seattle's been playing very efficient. Minnesota, I just think Minnesota's the better team. That's the only real way I could put it. Doug Baldwin's been hurt and in and out of the lineup all year. Seattle is a run-first offense. Minnesota's better at stopping the run than people realize. I think Minnesota's defense has been underperforming and Seattle's has been overperforming based on what we thought entering the year. But all in all, I think Rhodes and Griffin, I just think Minnesota's still, despite opinions and perception, the better defense and also the better offense. With Dalvin Cook back now, I just think they're better on both ends of the ball. Except for maybe quarterback, ironically. Russell Wilson tends to work magic sometimes. But I don't think this is one of the games. Monday Night Football on the road, I think Minnesota takes it. And both teams are playing pretty okay football. Neither team is out of it. Seattle is 7-5 and fighting for a wild card spot, and the Vikings are 6-5-1 and fighting for a wild card spot. Actually, they're only a game and a half behind Chicago, so they're potentially still fighting for the NFC North. So both teams need the win, and I think the Vikings get it.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go with the Vikings too. I think they're the better team, like you said. I don't really know how the Seahawks are winning games. They really have a top defense right now and a top running game too, but the names don't on that defense. You could probably name 2 people. You could probably name Frank Clark and Bobby Wagner. That's probably it for the most part. And then even running the ball, Mike Davis,
Chris Carson.
He was a first rounder for Carson. I don't know how they're running the ball, especially for a line that has been
Recently, Russell Wilson's been running a lot more here in the second half of the year, but still not quite what he's done in the past.
Yeah, he's being a little more cautious with that, I think. But yeah, I saw a tweet the other day. It said somewhere in the near future, someone has to do a case study of this Seahawks team and just try to figure out how this team is actually good. I thought they were going to be awful this year. I thought they were going to have 6 wins. I mean, at least 6 just because of Russ, but I didn't think they were going to, be in the wild card or just actually be a good team.
Yeah, I don't think many people expected that. And
yeah.
They're arguably playing some of their best football. I mean, in the fantasy world, Russell Wilson's always been a second half quarterback. But low key, Seattle's won 3 straight.
Yeah.
They're playing some of their best football at the moment.
Yeah, they're playing well. The Vikings have been underperforming. I know there's a lot of Kirk Cousins not being
All right, so we're in agreement there. I just stumbled across this. This is kind of funny. Ready? There's one team in the league with a positive record with a negative point differential.
Wait, let me guess it.
I was going to say, guess that team.
Positive record, the negative point differential. It's gotta be like. Is it Seattle?
It is not Seattle. I wish it was Seattle because that was the team exceeding expectations we just talked about. It is actually, and they won last night, Tennessee.
Every year, you know what? I probably would have said Tennessee, but I honestly thought they were 6-6. So I don't think they had a positive record.
That win puts them at 7-6, and their differential is -3.
Dude, last year, you gotta look it up from last year. Last year they made the playoffs. They might have been 9-7 or 10-6. I don't remember what they were, but they had a negative point differential and they made the playoffs. Them and Buffalo both had a negative point differential by I want to say the Titans were -15 or something and still made the playoffs. They just.
So Buffalo made the playoffs at 9-7 with a differential last year of -57.
Yeah, exactly. It was them and then the Titans.
And
had the second.
the Titans were 9-7 with a -22,
Yeah, they're so lucky these teams.
which is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
They're just the luckiest team of all time.
So I just want to take a look. Last year, the highest positive differential entering the playoffs. Actually, ironically, it was a tie. The Patriots and Philly both had a differential of +162.
Wow.
So now, this year, I just want to see where we're at, and I know the year's not over, but with the rule changes and these better offenses, I just want to see. So currently, with the year not being over, last year I'm expecting that to get beat. Two teams were 162. Currently, the Saints at 10-2 have a differential of +150.
Wow.
So
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I guess because they beat the Bengals and they beat the Eagles back-to-back weeks by 40 points each. So, I mean, that definitely contributed to it.
yes, and the league leaning towards the offense. I mean, the Rams will probably be close to that 162 mark. They're currently at 121. The Chiefs are at 117. So I think those teams will be close, but the Saints are so far ahead. I think they'll, have the highest, no doubt, by the end of it. But it is interesting. They might have a few. They'll probably lose one of these games along the way. At Bucks, at Panthers, home against the Steelers, home against the Panthers.
Is that the Saints?
That's the Saints. And the Bucks, beatable. Carolina, absolutely beatable. Steelers, tougher. I say they let one of those games slip, especially thinking week 17, maybe they rest their starters. But even considering that, I think their differential possibly hit 180 at the pace they're going. So, anyway, did you have anything else for this week?
No, I think I'm good. Just excited for the playoffs. And I don't know. Yeah, now it's real. I guess now it matters.
Separate the gladiators from the. I don't know, not gladiators. All right. Well, best of luck to all of you.
Canadian from the awkwardly feminine.
Yeah. So, good luck in your round 1 matchups. Congrats if you have the buys. And hopefully we'll see you here next week. Unless you're our opponents this week. But now's when it matters. So really start your best lineups. That's the best advice. Start your studs. Nick said it at the beginning. I'll reiterate it there. Do you have any other tips for any playoff contestants? Words of advice.
Let's see. Start your studs.
It's a kicker year.
Kicker year. I don't know if I got anything else. How about you?
I don't like relying on game flow. So if you're torn between say, two good running backs that have been consistent all year, but one of them does not do anything in the passing game, I'd lean towards the one that does. So, like, Jordan Howard, if the Bears get behind, they're going to abandon the run, and he won't play. Gus Edwards, same thing.
Or like Deion Lewis, Derrick Henry. That would have been a great tip last night.
Perfect example.
That would have been the worst tip ever.
Yeah, but I mean,
But no, I agree with that too for the most part.
for the most part, I like players that aren't one-dimensional. You know, if all you do is pound the ball right up the middle, and if you get behind, you don't touch the ball. So like Adrian Peterson, if they get behind, you know, odds are he's helped to get you here. If you have comparable options, like similar options performance-wise at this point in the year, I'd lean the other way. If not, you're playing him, but that's just my take on that. I tend to go with the players that I know will be on the field almost regardless of what happens.
Yep, that's a good tip.
So, and yeah, it's, you know what got you here, so don't get cute in the playoffs. Don't get too cute. Oh, one other big tip, and this bit me in the butt last year. Note the weather. Note where they're playing. I played a kicker in the snow last year because I overslept and didn't realize. I meant to check it in the morning, and I overslept, and he locked in my lineup. I know that means I woke up at 1 p.m.
Did you play the Vinatieri in the snow game? Is that the game you played?
I played. No, I think it was week 1. I think it was Rob. No, I wanted Robbie Gold. It was at Buffalo. So who was their kicker last year? Hofstra, maybe?
Maybe.
Could have been Vinatieri. Whoever it was someone in the snow game. And I had Robbie Gold lined up to take him just in case it snowed. And it did snow. And so that bit me in the butt because they didn't kick the ball. They didn't throw the ball. There was minimal offense. It was a lot of 3-and-outs. It was a lot of runs with the wet ground. So just monitor the weather. If it's supposed to snow in, I don't know, Green Bay or Buffalo or just wherever teams are playing, take note of that because that's going to significantly impact the way the offenses play the game and, in turn, what you should expect from your players. So,
All right.
I guess that is it.
Yeah.
So, good luck, and we'll see you next week.